In July 2019, a truck driver named Ed Grennan was running his regular route between Fort Nelson and Whitehorse on the Alaska Highway. Twice a week, same road, same truck, same 1,400 kilometers of wilderness. That week, he drove past a crime scene, 20 kilometers south of Liard Hot Springs, BC, a place he knew by heart. The bodies of two travelers had just been found by the roadside. Lucas Fowler, 23, Chynna Deese, 24, shot, left on the highway shoulder like they'd never existed. Ed Grennan stopped. He built a memorial, a cross, an Australian flag for Lucas, an American flag for Chynna. Then he got back in his truck and kept driving north, because that's what you do on the Alaska Highway. You keep moving. You don't think too hard about the fact that you just passed through a murder scene on a road where the nearest town is 90 minutes away, where there is no cell signal for hundreds of kilometers, where if something happens to you, if your truck breaks down, if someone stops to help and doesn't mean it, nobody will know until you don't show up at the other end. Ed Grennan drove that road twice a week for years. He knew what it was. But here's what most people don't know. Lucas and Chynna were not the first people to vanish on this road. They were not the only ones. And the truck driver who disappeared on this same highway 2 years earlier, whose truck was found, whose cargo was still inside, whose personal belongings were exactly where he left them, has never been found. Not a trace, not an explanation, nothing. There are 3 things you need to understand about the Alaska Highway before this story makes sense. The first is the road itself, what it is, and what it does to the people who drive it. The second is the pattern, because Ed Grennan's story and that missing driver's story are not isolated incidents on an isolated road. And the third is the number that changes everything. 20,000. We'll get to that. The Alaska Highway runs 2,232 kilometers from Dawson Creek, British Columbia, to Delta Junction, Alaska. It was built by the U.S. Army in 1942, 8 months and 12 days, start to finish, through some of the most hostile terrain on the North American continent. The engineers who planned it said it couldn't be done. 16,000 soldiers and civilian workers proved otherwise. 11 of them died building it. The highway passes through northern BC, through the Yukon, into Alaska. For most of its length, it runs through wilderness so complete that the phrase doesn't capture it. Not wilderness like a national park where there are rangers and trails and emergency phones. Wilderness like the nearest hospital is 4 hours away. The nearest tow truck is 3 hours away. Cell service exists in towns, which are separated by 200, 300, sometimes 400 kilometers of nothing. For the truck drivers who run this highway regularly, who haul supplies north to Whitehorse, to Watson Lake, to communities above the 60th parallel, it is a workplace. Familiar, manageable, known. But known doesn't mean safe. In a 500-kilometer stretch between Fort Nelson and Watson Lake, there are 3 communities. 3. The highway runs through boreal forest, through mountain passes, along river valleys, where the only thing moving for hours at a time is your truck. In winter, temperatures drop to 45 degrees. In summer, wildfires close sections without warning. In shoulder seasons, fog sits in the mountain passes so thick that the highway disappears 10 meters in front of your windshield. There are no highway cameras on most of this route. There is no continuous police presence. The RCMP detachments that service this corridor are separated by 200 kilometers and cover areas the size of European countries, which means that when something happens on the Alaska Highway, when a truck breaks down, when a driver doesn't show up, when someone stops to help and things go wrong, the response time is not minutes. It is hours. Sometimes it is days. And sometimes, as one family learned in 2017, the response comes and goes, and there are still no answers. I'm going to tell you what is confirmed. In 2017, a long-haul truck driver was running a regular route on the Alaska Highway in northern BC. His truck was found parked on the highway's shoulder in a section of road where trucks don't normally park. Not a designated rest area, not a way station, not a pullout with services. Just the shoulder, just the gravel and the tree line. The engine was off. His personal belongings were inside the cab. His logbook was current. His last entry placed him at that location at a time consistent with when the truck was discovered. His cargo was intact, undisturbed, still properly strapped and secured. He was not inside the truck. The RCMP launched a search. Ground teams, air support, dogs. They searched the forest on both sides of the highway for days. They canvassed the few communities in the area. They reviewed what little surveillance footage existed from the gas stations he had stopped at on his route. They found nothing. No evidence of foul play at the truck. No evidence of a medical emergency. No blood. No signs of struggle. no medications left behind that would indicate a crisis, no footprints leading into the forest that could be definitively attributed to him. The ground near the truck shoulder had been disturbed enough by traffic and weather by the time the search began that tracking was compromised. He had simply stopped, and then he was gone. Now here's where this stops being a single case and becomes something harder to explain, because he is not the only one. The Alaska Highway Corridor, the stretch of road from northern BC through the Yukon into Alaska, sits at the southern edge of a geographic area that researchers, investigators, and now even mainstream media have started calling by a specific name: the Alaska Triangle. The Alaska Triangle is roughly defined as the region between 3 points: Anchorage in the south, Juneau in the southeast, and Utqiagvik, formerly Barrow, on the northern Arctic coast. It is one of the most sparsely populated regions of North America, and since the early 1970s, more than 20,000 people have vanished inside it. That number is not a rounding error. It is not an exaggeration. The History Channel, which has documented this phenomenon extensively, confirms that the Alaska Triangle has more unsolved missing persons cases than anywhere else in the world, with an average of 2,250 people disappearing every year, a rate that doubles the national average. Read that again. 2,250 people every year in a region with a fraction of the population of any major Canadian city. The disappearances are not concentrated in one area or one demographic: hikers, hunters, pilots, fishermen, local residents who knew the terrain, experienced wilderness travelers who had been there before, and drivers, people on roads in vehicles with mechanical backup and communication equipment who disappeared anyway. The most high-profile case was in October 1972, when a plane carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs and Alaska Congressman Nick Begich vanished between Anchorage and Juneau. Despite a massive search effort spanning 325,000 square miles and 3,600 hours, neither the plane nor the 4 people aboard were ever found. But Boggs and Begich were powerful men with powerful resources behind the search. The attention their disappearance received is not representative of what most missing persons cases in this region look like. Most missing persons cases in this region look like a truck parked on a highway shoulder, logbook current, cargo intact, driver gone. And no search, however thorough, changes the outcome. Talk to the drivers who run the Alaska Highway regularly, not the ones passing through once on a road trip, the ones who drive it twice a week, 48 weeks a year, who know every mountain pass and every river crossing and every section where the road does something unexpected. They will tell you things that don't make it into official reports. They will tell you about the sections of highway where CB radio communication goes dead without explanation, not in mountain passes where terrain would account for it, but on flat, open stretches where signal should be clear. They will tell you about vehicles stopped on the shoulder at 3 a.m. with no apparent mechanical issue that are gone by the time they pass again on the return trip. No tow truck, no driver, just a rectangular patch of gravel where something had been parked. They will tell you about the lights. Multiple drivers, independent of each other in different years on different sections of the highway, report seeing lights in the forest off the highway that don't correspond to any structure, any town, any logging operation. Not distant, close, stationary, present when the truck approaches, gone when the truck slows. There are rational explanations for some of these things: ball lightning, swamp gas, bioluminescent organisms, lights from aircraft or distant communities refracted through cold air. There are rational explanations, but here is what Ed Grennan, the trucker who built the memorial for Lucas Fowler and Chynna Deese, said after years of driving that highway: "It bothers everybody so bad. Not the specific murders, not even the specific cases, the highway itself, the accumulation of things that happen on it, and the things that don't get explained." He built that memorial because something needed to acknowledge what the road had taken, because the alternative, driving past it twice a week and saying nothing, felt like participation in the forgetting. Here is what we know for certain. The Alaska Highway is one of the most remote major roads in North America. It runs through a region where search and rescue response times are measured in hours and days, not minutes, where weather can make aerial search impossible for days at a time, where the boreal forest on both sides of the road is so dense that a person who walked 50 meters into it could be invisible to searchers on the shoulder. Here is what the statistics confirm. The region this highway passes through has the highest per capita rate of unsolved missing persons cases on the continent. Since 1988 alone, more than 16,000 people have gone missing in this region, roughly 4 out of every 1,000 individuals, more than double the national average. Here is what the investigators say. Most disappearances in this region have rational explanations. The wilderness is genuinely dangerous. People underestimate it, they get lost, they have accidents. The terrain is unforgiving and the distances are vast. Most, not all. The truck driver who vanished in 2017 did not underestimate the highway. He drove it professionally. His equipment was functioning. His truck was parked deliberately. Not disabled, not crashed, not abandoned in panic. Parked. Engine off. Belongings inside. And he is gone. The case remains open. No answers have been provided publicly. The truck sat on the shoulder of the Alaska Highway in northern BC, engine off, cargo intact, logbook current, until it was towed away. Whatever happened between the moment he turned off that engine and the moment he was gone, 200 meters of road shoulder, forest on both sides, no witnesses, no cameras, no explanation. The Alaska Highway is not telling. It never does. I want to hear from you. If you drive the Alaska Highway professionally, regularly as part of a route that takes you through northern BC or the Yukon, drop a comment. Tell me what section you drive and what you've seen. Not rumors, not things you heard. Things you personally witnessed on that road that didn't have an easy explanation. I read every single one, and if you're watching this from somewhere south of the 60th parallel tonight, from Vancouver, from Calgary, from Toronto, I want you to do one thing. Look up the Alaska Highway on a map. Find Fort Nelson, find Watson Lake, find the distance between them and the number of towns in between. Then understand that professional drivers cross that emptiness alone, at night, twice a week, every week, and one of them stopped his truck on the shoulder one night and was never seen again. One more thing. This channel covers the stories that happen on Canadian roads that most Canadians never hear, the ones that official reports close without resolution, the ones that families carry for years without answers. The ones that the people who drive these roads know and talk about among themselves and don't say out loud to people who haven't been there. If you want to keep hearing these stories, subscribe. It's free, and it means the next one gets made. I'll see you down the road.